How would you say, from a communication standpoint, in times of conflict resolution, tough conversations, how would you encourage those in organizations that are leading people to be able to have those conversations and communicate with them effectively?
The first responsibility of a leader, Max Dupree says, is to define reality. And reality is that if you're working together as a team, you're going to have problems. That's the reality. In the beginning, the first conversation I have with you, I say to you, we will have tough conversations.
Quick question for you. Are you ready to become the leader you've always wanted to be? Because at Maxwell Leadership, we believe everyone has the potential to lead with impact and purpose. It's not about a position. It's not about a title. It's about influence, growth, and the ability to add value to others. Whether you're leading in an organization or just looking for ways to up-level your personal growth journey, our content is designed to help take you to that next level. Surround yourself with like-minded people who encourage you along your journey.
And I think that the moment that we address it in the beginning, first of all, we're honest with people, but also when it's time to have a tough conversation, it's not personal. Because I told you we were going to have tough conversations before I ever knew you. I told you we were going to have tough conversations before you messed up. I told you we were going to have tough conversations before you didn't do what I wanted to see you do on the team. So once I set that as the precedence, and you know that we're going to have tough conversations, when I say, hey, Chris, we got to have a difficult conversation now, it isn't like, oh my gosh, I must have done something terrible. Well, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, I don't know. But here's what I know. When you preset the questions and the issues on the front end, then when you get to them, it's not awkward, and then you can deal with those issues.
Yeah. This is something that you talk about a lot, and you talk about the power of connecting with people as they communicate. Why is that so hard for people today in organizations?
Well, I think that most of us haven't been taught to really connect and communicate with people. And one of the things I teach very quickly is that if I'm going to if I'm going to connect with you, the first thing I need to realize is it's really all about you. And most people, when they communicate, they're asking themselves, am I doing a good job? And, are my words right? And they're too inward focused, and they're not enough outward focused. And to help leaders in companies understand this, basically I ask them this question, that is, are you trying in your organization to add value to yourself, or are you trying to add value to your team? You see, if I'm trying to add value to you, then the first thing I know is it's about you. It's not about me. Yeah. So if I'm trying to add value to you, the first thing I have to do is I have to find you. And the way that I find you is by getting common ground. Maybe a better way to say this, Chris, is when I started off as a leader, I was very directional. I was young and I had vision and I knew what I wanted. And so I'd grab somebody like you and say, come on, Chris, get on my team. Here's where we're going to go. And to be honest with you, I didn't find you. I just kind of drafted you. And so off you are. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't work. And then one day I realized I needed to stop directing and start connecting. And the way that you connect with people is by asking questions.
Yeah.
And so I began to ask questions. And that's when I began to understand also that you have to find people before you lead people. So once I know it's all about you, once I know it's all about adding value to you, once it's all about me understanding and knowing you and finding you, then all of a sudden the connection begins to happen, because guess what? All of those things are all about you. They're not about me, they're about you. Leaders understand it's always about the people. Once you connect with the people, once you get buy-in with the people, everything else works.
People won't really go along with you unless they can get along with you. Stanford research says this: your success, my success, anybody's success in this profession, 87% of our success is people knowledge, and only 13% of our success is product knowledge. In other words, Stanford research basically says that your success and my success is going to be more determined by our ability to get along with people, add value to them, connect with them, than anything else in our life. And that is exactly what I've discovered. During the Enron scandal in America in 2001, my publisher, Time Warner, asked me to write a book on business ethics, and I told them I couldn't. They asked why. I said, because there's no such thing as business ethics. There's just ethics. A young man came up and gave me a book to sign, and he looked at me and said, I've decided that I want to do what you do. He said, I've watched you teach leadership, and people are loving it, and wow, they paid a lot of money to come. He said, I want to do what you do. I said, that's good. That's real good. I said, let me ask you a question. Would you like to do what I did so that you can do what I do? Now, you see, that's the question. It's not, would you like to do what somebody that's in your business is doing successfully now? Oh my gosh, I want to be at the top of the ladder. I want to make a lot of money. I want to have a lot of clients. That's not the question at all. Would you like to do what they did before you could do what they do? It's the did that's the challenge. We all want the success. We just don't want to climb the mountain. And I tell people all the time that the did comes before the do. And by the way, if you don't do the did, honestly, you're in deep doo-doo. I promise you. There's no such thing as doing it great without having to go through the adversity, the uphill climb. That's huge. So I want you to understand that to get a return on failure, you just have to embrace hard. That's what I tell my players around me all the time. That's why in my 7 companies, I tell my teams all the time, this isn't supposed to be easy. Making money isn't supposed to be easy. It takes a lot of work, takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of creativity, takes a lot of time. Everything worthwhile is uphill. Our problem is we have uphill dreams, but we have downhill habits. And one of the downhill habits that we have is trying to be successful without energy, effort, and time. That habit will never get you up that hill. You can't coast to success. Embrace hard. The difference between managers and leaders is managers lead everybody the same. They want organization. They want everybody to be the same, stay the same, not change. And leaders lead everyone differently. And they know that. And so the difference is management kind of likes things to stay the same. Leaders understand that things are always going to change. And they realize the best leaders are going to get out on the front end of change and be creators of change instead of being resistors of change. In fact, the challenge of every leader, regardless of who they're leading, is to keep their people moving. I mean, that's what leaders do. They move people and people stop. People stop for different reasons. In sales, what happens is, when you had a good month and you did well, you have a tendency to say, okay, let's eat off of that month for a while, and you only kind of get back in when things aren't going quite so well. You and I were together, and let's say you were, eating what you were, killing and kind of going back and forth. I would just have a private conversation with you, and I'd say, Sam, I notice you have good months. I notice you have real low months, and just help me understand, because I want to lead you right and well. Talk to me about the low months, the high months. Why do you have that inconsistency? And what I have found, it goes back to my book, Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. What I have found is I lead always by questions, because if I give answers, I own it. If I ask questions, they own it. And that is a huge difference. And so what I do is I'll share with them. I'll say, talk to me about your low months and why do you have that? And I listen to them. I listen very carefully to them. And after I listen to them, I ask them, okay, do you like low months? Is it kind of like you're okay with low months? Because if you're okay with them, there's not a motivational tool in my bag that can help you. I just have to realize this is who you are and this is what you're going to produce, and then give you the time that I'm going to give you based upon who you are, and so I really allow them to express themselves, and the reason for that is, if I allow them to tell me why they have low months in that whole process, very quickly 2 things happen. awareness really rises. Because, when people say they're self-aware, they're not self-aware. The only self-awareness anybody has is somebody walked in their life and it made them aware of it. And because we all have blind spots. So when you start asking questions and interacting in that kind of a private setting, asking these questions, two things really come to fruition. And one is awareness. All of a sudden they think, wow, yeah, I guess I would rather not have low months. Well, let's talk about it in that whole process. And then the second thing is an understanding of how I'm going to lead you. I would look at you and say, when you have a low month, do you want me to kick you in the butt? What do you need from me? Or do you want me to let you go and just basically say that's who they are? And if that's the case, you're just going to give me leadership time for other people. And again, ownership and awareness comes out of asking questions, which just becomes absolutely huge because now they have to own it, and they're aware of it, and I have an understanding how to lead them. I have no desire to have a thought-provoking question. I have a desire, though, to know the person. I never go in with a preset of questions, except the first one, which is basically help me understand where you are. And this is my observation, and is my observation correct? Because maybe I'm not seeing it correctly. But I always let the person at the conversation determine the next question, because I think that what's more important than a series of questions to ask is a seriousness about asking the questions. People can tell when you're authentic with them, and they can tell when you have, I've got 4 questions, I've got them laid out here. They can tell that versus, okay, I see where you are now. Oh, I had no idea. Okay. Now I've got to ask this question. Now, when people say, okay, that doesn't help me very much, it does help you. And here's what I'm going to say to you. When people say, well, you've got a lot of wisdom there. I don't think I would have that wisdom to go into a conversation and let it unfold, to ask questions. And I would say you don't in the beginning, but that's how you get that wisdom. Wisdom is birthed out of experience that's tried. And so when I started off, I didn't know how to flow with those with their life either. But the longer that I did it, the more I understood how to do it. And today, when people hear me do it, they say, "John, you're a genius." I said, "No, I'm not a genius. I've just done this 10,000 times, honestly." And after a while, after a while, you just say, "Oops, that was a dead end. I don't think I'll go there anymore." And so you learn. I think it's very essential to have authentic conversations. I do not appreciate people not being truthful with me. I tell people I care for you too much to ever be fake, and I care way too much for you not to constructively try to help you. I'm not going to allow you to stay where you are. You may allow yourself to stay where you are, but I'm going to do everything I can not to move it. But what I tell people all the time in my organizations is, I unconditionally love you. So let's start right there. Your family. Okay. Now that we've got that settled, you have to earn my time. I don't unconditionally give my time out. You have to earn my time, and you earn my time by producing. You earn my time by producing. And so when you say, well, John, you're spending a lot of time over there with Joe, and boy, Susan's getting a lot of your time. I look at you very simply and say, it's because they're producing. When you produce like Joe and Susan, guess what? You get my time too. And so, you don't have to earn my love, but you do have to earn my time. And I'm very clear with that with everybody, and they understand that. And that really works. That really works. And so when they complain about not having enough time, there's a reason for that.
At Maxwell Leadership, you'll learn directly from John C. Maxwell and a team of experts who've helped millions of leaders worldwide. It's not just about improving your career, it's about becoming the best version of yourself and making a lasting impact. Follow the link in the description below to see how Maxwell Leadership can come alongside you in your journey.
When people become a part of our organization, we sit down and we just address things right up front. And one of the things we address right up front is, we're really glad to have you on the team. Let me explain something to you. We're going to have very tough discussions. I want you to know that right now. The day you're getting hired, there's nothing tough about getting hired. You just got hired, so go celebrate. But let me tell you something. We will have tough conversations. And we tell them that because you cannot have a working relationship with people. You can't have a marriage without having tough conversations. There's no such thing as anything that lasts without tough conversations. So what we do is we tell them that on the front end. So 3 months later, when I have to have a tough conversation, Sam, I go in and say, remember our conversation at the beginning that we would have tough conversations? Guess what? We're just about ready to have one. Consistency compounds positively, and it compounds negatively. When you're consistently doing good things, you compound your value to the company. When you consistently don't produce, you're becoming a negative influencer. And so basically, I always say, it'll show up. It'll show up. It's not what you, and don't tell me what you're going to do. You got to show me what you're going to do. So I have no interest in your words. And it'll show up. And so we'll look and see what you did last month. Oops, it showed up bad again. And so what it basically says, I don't fire you. You really fire yourself. I just let it happen. Your ability to connect with people is essential to your success in this business. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. In the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, it's the law of connection. You have to touch a heart before you can ask for a hand. It's the law of buy-in. People buy into the leader before they buy into the vision. Successful people relate well and connect beautifully with other people. It's kind of like this. You have to find people before you can lead people. And so many leaders, they're ready to lead, but they haven't found the people. They haven't walked slowly through the crowd. We hear the expression, it's lonely at the top. Well, if you're lonely at the top, it's not because you're a leader, it's because you have some kind of a dysfunctional personality. In fact, if you're the leader, why are you at the top all alone anyway? You see, leaders are identified with the fact that they bring their people with them. I mean, when you're climbing the mountain, you're bringing people with you. So when you get to the top, it's a we celebration, not a me celebration. I mean, if you're all at the top alone, you're not a leader, you're a hiker. You don't want to go there. It's all about relating. It's all about connecting. It's all about people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. It's that relational connection that absolutely makes the difference. And I just want to encourage you to connect well with people every day. Add value to people. I am so consistent in this area. I mean, when I thought about you today, and the first question I asked myself is, how do I add value to you? What do I say that'll just help you just grow another step in your life? I mean, what can I do that serves you? What can I do that gives you a little help along the way, a hand that just maybe gives you security? I don't know, but here's what I know. Here's what I know. Every day I ask myself, who am I going to add value to today, and how am I going to add value to them? And every evening I ask myself, did I add value to people today, and how did I add value to them? I mean, when this day is over, I'll think of Arbonne, and I'll ask myself a very simple question tonight. Did I serve you well? Did I meet your needs? Was I your friend? Would you say at the end of your day that you were glad that John came into your life? Will you kind of smile and say, you know what? He helped me. Connecting with people is essential. People won't go along with you until they can get along with you. So understand, you are in the people business, and your ability to connect with people is going to determine so much how successful you are with the people. And Jim Blanchard, when he became the CEO of Synovus, very quickly he realized that many of the supervisors didn't treat the people well. So he kind of, took a few months to look around and ask questions and observe. And he came to the conclusion that many of the leaders, the supervisors at Synovus, didn't treat others as they would want to be treated themselves. So he called together a meeting. I think they had maybe a little bit over 3,000 employees at that time. And he shared with the whole company his observation that some of the supervisors perhaps weren't treating people right. And so now this is the will, the personal will to make sure that you can follow through on that standard that you proclaim on. It's Enron had the standard to follow, they just didn't have the will to do it. Well, so here comes Jim Blanchard, and he says, okay, this is a golden rule culture, and we're going to create it here, and we don't have it yet. And he said, I'm the leader, so I'm going to make sure that we change. And then he did something really, really bold. He pulled out a cell phone and he gave everybody his cell number. He said, I want you to write this down. This is my cell number. This doesn't come to my assistant, my executive assistant. This comes to me. And here's what I want you to do. If in this company you're not treated correctly with a supervisor, you just call me. You give me your name and you tell me who your supervisor's name is and you tell me what happened. And he said, I personally will go to unearth what the truth is there, and I'll go to that supervisor and we're gonna talk about this issue. He said, just call me. He gave that phone number up. He said, John, he said, literally for the next month, he said, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of phone calls. In fact, he said there were times where I thought, what in the world did was I crazy or something? I gave out my cell number and these people are calling me. But he said, we were diligent. We followed up on every reported abuse, misuse of people. And he said we found out that a lot of them were very valid. And he said we sat down with the supervisor. We basically said, let's talk about this. And we got to correct this. You need to go to that person. You need to ask forgiveness. You need to change in your behavior. And he said, in 3 months, everything began to change. Now, he said we paid a price for that. He said the price we paid is, I think he said, that in 1 year's time that they let a third of the supervisors go. But he said, John, within a year, we had a golden rule culture. We had ethics. We began to develop an atmosphere that was an environment that's just conducive for growth and for good business. And it was just huge. It was just huge. Well, it's a perfect example of not only having a standard, but a will. My father was growing up right after the Depression. And it was a very difficult time. Men were out of jobs, and pretty much every day there was no work to go to. They went to the food line, and they waited in line for them to get food for their family for the day. And my father, who was in that environment, in that same town, he didn't go to the food line every day, but every day he would go to a different store in his little town. And he'd introduce himself, and he would say, I know that you can't afford me to work, and I like to work, so I would like to offer you a free day of work. And the store owner, maybe at the hardware store, would say, well, what do you mean by that? He said, well, I like to work, and so can I just work for you for free today? You won't owe me anything at the end of the day, but I'd like to help you. Are there some things you need to have done in the store that you haven't been able to get to? And the owner would say, now listen, you got to understand, son, because my father at that time was just in beginning high school. He'd say, well, now you have to understand now. I can't pay you. I know, Dad said, just let me work for you. And Dad would work hard all day. And at the end of the day, he'd come by and he'd say, well, thank you for letting me work today, and shake his hand. And my father was a hard worker. And inevitably, whoever was in charge of the store would look at him and say, wow, thank you. You really helped us today. I'm sorry I can't pay you. And my dad would look at him and say, it's okay. I'm glad to help you. And then he would say, if at any time you ever are financially able to maybe hire somebody part-time, would you think of me? And he'd give him the contact information, and he'd walk away, and the next day go to another store and do the same thing, and another store and another store. He did that for a month. And by the end of the month, my father had 3 part-time jobs. Everybody else is in a bread line. My dad's going to work. Now, what was the difference? Same town, same time, same environment, but different thinking. And I'm here to tell you that when it comes to our thinking and our mindset, sometimes I just wish that, we could, have a zipper on our head, and you could reach in and pull out that mind and kind of scrub it up and wash it up a little bit and just kind of get your mindset right, because I can promise you, the moment that you begin to think correctly, everything begins to change in your life. That our attitude is the difference maker. Now, attitude isn't everything. I have people come in their life and they'll say, well, attitude is everything. And if you can believe it, you can achieve it. Those things aren't true. Those are all said by motivational speakers, but it's not true.
Attitude isn't everything. Attitude will not replace competence. You know, if you're not a competent person, you may have a positive attitude, but you may lose your job. Now the good news is if you lose your job, you'll still, I guess you'll be happy. You say, well, I've got some free time now. But attitude isn't everything, but it's the main thing. It's the difference maker, and it's the difference maker in all things being equal. If you've got to choose between two people to hire, all things being equal, experience, education, giftedness, but one has a good attitude and one doesn't, who are you going to hire? You're going to hire the person with a good attitude. Why? Because it has become the difference maker. And one of the attitudes I think that people have that really helps set them apart and helps to make them very, very successful is this. I choose to believe in myself, and I choose to believe in my purpose. Now, I know people who believe in themselves, but they don't believe in a purpose. They don't even have a purpose. I know people who believe in their purpose, but they don't really believe in themselves. And I just want to help you here that both personal belief, believing in yourself, and purpose belief, believing in what you're doing, they have to kind of rise together. Let me explain to you what I mean. If I have low personal belief, I don't really believe in myself. And at the same time, I also have low purpose belief. In fact, I probably don't even have a purpose. What's the result of that? Low personal belief, low purpose belief. What's the result? It's very simple. I won't get started. Well, let's say that I have high personal belief in me, but I have very still low purpose belief in what I should be doing. If I have high personal belief in me, I'll probably get started, but if my purpose is low, I won't stay in the game. I'll drop out. Well, what happens if I have very low personal belief, low self-esteem, a low sense of self-worth? Let's say my personal belief is low, but my purpose belief is high. Well, what that means is that I'll never accomplish my dream. And the reason I'll never accomplish my dream is not because I lack purpose, but I can't see myself accomplishing the dream because my personal belief is not high enough. You see, I know a lot of people that have great purpose, but because they have a low personal self-esteem, they sabotage themselves. And on their way to success, they make sure that they fail so they'll never have that success. You see, this type of thinking I'm talking about now is I believe in myself, high personal belief, and I believe in my purpose, high purpose belief. Now, when both of those are high, let me tell you what will happen. You will reach your game. And when I talk about leadership matters, this one little illustration will just help me, and that's all I need to give you that help you to understand the importance of leadership in your life, the importance of leadership in my daily choice. It's you know, everything rises and falls on leadership. The better you lead, the more successful you'll be in that business. So here's the law of the lid. Let's say that this left hand represents my leadership lid. Now, my leadership lid this is how well I lead. This is my leadership skill level, okay? So this is my leadership lid. Now, whatever this lid is, this is the lid that keeps me from doing better, going higher, and being more successful. Because if this is my leadership lid and this is my business, my daily choice business, my daily choice will come under my leadership lid. Never go higher. It can't. There's a leadership lid on it. My leadership determines the size of my business. That's why we call it a leadership lid. So if from a 1 to a 10, let's say I'm an average leader, I'm a 5 as a leader, that's my leadership lid. What that means is my business at Daily Choice, it's going to be a 4. And let me tell you what it's not going to be. It's not going to go above that lid and become a 5, 6, or 7. It can't. The lid determines the size of the business. Your leadership determines how successful you're going to be in my Daily Choice. And
if you're ready to lead with confidence, add value to others, and invest in your own growth, click the link below to learn more about how Maxwell Leadership can help you achieve your goals. Don't forget to subscribe for more tips, strategies, insights from the world's top leadership experts. Keep leading, Keep growing, and let's turn your passion into purpose and profit.